Now, you know what? Now, I think this is a really good thing that you two guys have got going.
Thanks, man.
I take it from a groundbreaker like Ron Simmons. He knows something good when he sees it. Damn!
Y'all heard it from him.
Keep up with the culture and listen to this episode in full on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Make sure to give us a follow on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and fall under the influence.
Welcome back to Cultural Influence, man. I feel like it's been a while, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we were in the new studio, you know what I'm saying? This isn't a permanent home. The name of this episode is called The Catch-Up. And so The Catch-Up means we're just gonna go over the recent things that done happened. And Richie has a new segment here where we're gonna talk about the video games. One of the most loved, most celebrated runs of wrestling video games started with the Nintendo 64. Because, like, it was one of those games that, like, once you got done playing it, you still had things that you could do.
I honestly just remember having a lot of fun. I just remember, because back then you had, like, the rosters were crazy, like, if you look back at it.
I'm glad to have him on the show. He's going to be a special moderator for Hot Tags. You know, in wrestling terms, he's known as the special enforcer, should I say.
I think everyone's kind of figuring out what's going to happen with her in WWE. I'm seeing Bianca Belair, WrestleMania. I'm seeing a lot of stuff. So, what do you think right here with this? What's this going to lead to for her? How about that?
And with her being behind the machine known as WWE, there's going to be this expectation placed for her to already be great. And I feel like we kind of overlooked it. We just glanced over because by this point it's old news. But CM Punk legit got fired.
That's true.
Like, yeah, I did not see that coming. I did not see AEW nor Tony Khan firing CM Punk. That was just crazy to me. What's going on with it, guys? Welcome back to Cultural Influence. Man, I feel like it's been a while, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we were in the new studio, you know what I'm saying? This isn't a permanent home. Don't worry, we will be back in my comfortable apartment, but this studio will be used for special episodes. You know, this is a special episode. That gives the calls to use this studio and stuff. So, welcome back. You know, I think I teased it earlier. The name of this episode is called The Catch-Up. And so, The Catch-Up means we're just gonna go over the recent things that done happened, and Richie has a new segment here where we're gonna talk about the video games, because I think that's not a controversial, but one of the underrated aspects of being a wrestling fan. And I just want to go ahead and introduce I've known this guy for about a year or two.
I think so. It's been a year.
Yeah, it's been about a year or two and stuff like that. And my man got his own podcast going and stuff like that. I mean, I think his skills is beyond mine at this point, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm learning from him in some aspects of the game. So shout outs to what he got going on. And he also does multi-projects on the side too, you know what I'm saying? So he know a thing or two about, podcasts, but he also knows a thing or two about wrestling. And so I'm glad to have him on the show. He's going to be a special moderator for Hot Tags, because me and Richie, we can sometimes get off subject or go a little longer than I think we need to and stuff like that. So, you know, in wrestling terms, he's known as the special enforcer, should I say?
Yes.
So yeah, man, shout outs to Alex, man. Alex, man, welcome, dude.
I appreciate you guys having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Now I'm going to turn it over here to the co-host Richie here, man, because he had told me this idea about this video game section, you know what I'm saying? And as I said earlier, it's an underrated aspect of the fan experience. So Richie, kind of go over it with us, and man, let's talk some video games.
Yeah. So what made me want to talk about video games was the fact that wrestling was often, brought to the mainstream by video games, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s. And so if anybody that really got into wrestling, the first thing they did was play a video game. And so one of the most loved, most celebrated runs of wrestling video games started with the Nintendo 64. And so I wanted to touch bases on that, get everybody's thoughts on, what games they thought, and then ultimately come to a conclusion of what was the best Nintendo 64 video game.
Awesome. And Alex, I think you can hop in on this one. For us being Gen Zers, you know what I'm saying? We've seen the evolution of gaming evolve. And
true.
I think being able to, when you're an entertainment entity and you're trying to capitalize on video gaming, it's really hard.
Yeah.
And I think WWE, and we'll get to, as you talked about earlier, WCW, I mean, like they managed to do it.
They did. The N64, I had the WCW one with Hulk Hogan on it. I don't remember which one that was called. And I had a WWF one at the time too.
Awesome. Okay. Cool.
But like you said, we a little younger, so that was like kind of at the, you know what I'm saying? Tail end of it.
Yeah. I was the hand-me-down, so I experienced a good chunk of some N64 games.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Blown in the carts when it didn't work. I remember.
Yeah, that's what I said. I think we got the best of both worlds. You know what I'm saying? I think we're very credible when it comes to breaking down what is a good video game and what isn't a good video game.
Yeah. So of course, these aren't the first wrestling games. Wrestling games, of course, existed way before the Nintendo 64. They had several games on the Nintendo, on the Super Nintendo, but the games really got good around 1997 when Man Breeze, also known as the Akai Corporation, started with WCW VS The World. And that one was just on Nintendo. That one was just on PlayStation. It wasn't on Nintendo yet, but it introduced that famous Akai engine, AKI. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but you guys know what I'm talking about. The AKI engine, and it's that great grappling system that basically took the systems from here on out. So I'm probably going to skip over that since it wasn't on 64 and go straight to the one that I believe Alex was talking about earlier, WCW VS The World. So fellas, what do you guys think about that game?
Okay, so that was actually the first N64 game?
Yeah.
Really? Wow. Well, I remember N64. I remember it because I don't think you might have had it, but by the time I had gotten to it, it was gone. But our cousin Rochelle had given it to me for me to play and stuff. And I will say, like, it was very fun because, like, a lot of the I could tell Aikman was kind of learning the graphics with like the size of the wrestlers, because like as we go further into the N64 games, a lot of the wrestlers get smaller. And the good games are the wrestlers where they're visually small, and stuff like that. And one thing that stuck out to me on WCW VS The World was like how their wrestlers was small. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that one was more of a port of virtual pro wrestling, and so like a lot of the moves weren't necessarily what they were supposed to be. Like I remember Razor Ramon, he used to do Scott Hall would do the Razor's Edge, but in this game it was like a sit out power bomb instead of the falling move. So it had a lot of Japanese wrestlers in it that were just renamed for copyright purposes in a smaller WCW roster, but it laid the foundation with that engine for like games that were to come. And so, which led to the next game after that, which was WCW versus NWO Revenge. Have you fellas ever played that one?
I think that's the one I had. I think I'm thinking of.
What are your thoughts on that one?
It's crazy hearing you break down a game like this. And I remember you being a kid, you don't think about all this stuff.
You don't?
You know what I mean? You just play, have fun, because you got the Hulk Hogan's, you got, all the fun people on there. Goldberg, playing with him on video games, always fun. But I'm like, wow, thinking the progression of video games, and just thinking about how you broke it down, how the characters used to look, and how that's just wild to think. But I honestly just remember having a lot of fun. I just remember, because I think back then, it's weird now because the new WWE games, you get the older wrestlers and you have to pay for like extra stuff to get access to the older wrestlers.
Exactly.
And back then you had like the rosters were crazy. Like if you look back at it, like So it's just weird to think about that. But and I didn't even think about the the engine and how the graphics look. You just like you can put it in. If it works, it works. That's all that matters. But
WCW versus NWO Revenge was a good game because kind of like that was when the characters wasn't so large from the world versus on Revenge and stuff like that. And Revenge, one thing that I didn't like about it was like whenever you would use a weapon and you would drop it, you would never see that weapon again.
They did used to disappear, huh? Yeah. I remember that. They did that for a while though, if I'm not tripping.
Most WCW games did that. And
well, I'm saying even into like in the early 2000s, I feel like that happened quite a bit where they would disappear if you dropped them on the ground.
Some did, some did. Now, like, I think that was what determined, like, I hate to use that as one of the reasons why Revenge wasn't one of my favorite games. Like, there were characters that I liked in there, like Goldberg. I used to love, because his spear wasn't a finisher, it was a running attack. That was one thing I remember about that, because, one thing about, being a wrestling fan and being a kid, you can't wait to hit the finisher. And so Goldberg, for me at the time, I was under the impression that his finisher was the spear, but it wasn't in WCW, it was the jackhammer. So just being able to hit the spear whenever I wanted and stuff like that without waiting for that special bar to come up, I was like, hey, that's great.
And that's what needs to be said as well. Like the AKI engine, they also introduced the spirit meter, the picking out the moves from the crowd and all that type of stuff. So it revolutionized wrestling gaming a whole lot. And the one thing I noticed about WCW versus NWO Revenge was that it introduced the creator wrestler suite that the other game just didn't have, And man, that started me on a dark path that I still have not recovered from, because every game I play, I'm creating wrestlers. And while it wasn't the first game with the wrestler creation suite, it had the best one up to that point, which leads me to the next one, which is the first WWF game on 64, WWF WarZone.
WarZone. Oof.
Now this one, fellas, was developed by Acclaim. And it kind of played like a fighter, where like instead of like, you know, doing the grapple and pushing a directional button, this one you kind of had to put a combination of buttons in to do a move, and it was not fun.
It wasn't.
It was not. I did not like it. But it did have the create a wrestler feature, and that's one of the first things I remember. It was like you would go in, it was bare bones for the most part, you know, a bunch of weird stuff. But I also remember like before the matches would start, the wrestlers would be like, you know, oh, you're really pissing me off. It was like Stone Cold.
Oh,
yeah.
They would all say things before the match, so it was kind of
Uh-huh.
interactive. But you fellas ever get to play that game?
I think so, man. You guys are putting me down like deep memories. I'm like, I'm remembering them talking. That's when, yeah, because what are the head crashers? Headbangers. Yes. I'm trying to remember. I'm like, I remember them being in there.
Or something, didn't
Yeah. I was like, wow, y'all making me think like, wow, I remember playing that, and I remember the talking aspect of it was something special they did back then.
That was one thing that stuck out to me before the match would go, because of course, you know, bare bones, by the time I played it, the game was already 10 years old at the time.
Yeah.
So I didn't really like have the opportunity to, like, you know what I'm saying, play it fresh out of the cartridge and stuff, because I was like, I really wasn't that impressed with it.
And I say bare bones now, looking at it from these standards, but at the time I was rather impressed with it. I was like, oh, okay, you know, that's what I went in and did. But I just realized I couldn't do moves as easy as I could in the WCW games.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
But that game was quickly followed up by WWF Attitude in 1999, which was the direct sequel to the last game. And it was more of the same, you know, nothing really big. And I believe the reception to that game and the reception to Revenge was the reason why WWE cut ties with Acclaim and started to work with AKI.
Okay.
Now, AKI, they didn't want, not AKI, WCW, they didn't want AKI making games for them and WWE. So they cut ties.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Okay.
That's crazy.
And this is why WCW vs NWO Revenge is the last game developed by AKI for them, which leads to what I believe is their magnum opus of video games, WWF No Mercy.
Awesome.
A lot of people believe that this game is still the greatest wrestling game of all time. And I mean, anybody that's ever played it might agree with it. You guys ever played this one?
I think I did, but I would not say it's the best of all time.
Okay.
I will not.
Okay.
I will not.
We'll get into
I will
that.
not. We can get in that later.
Okay,
But I was
okay.
like, I've heard people say that, but I'm like, oh.
No Mercy, I think it was very revolutionary for video games, because like it was one of those games that like once you got done playing it, you still had things that you could do. You know what I'm saying? And I think like with and the fact that it still holds the test of time because it came out in 2000. I was born in 2000, and the fact that I could still talk about it in a high regard, like I swear, like if I didn't just announce that I was born in 2000, I think people would have thought, yo, he played it when it first came out, but like. But the engine in that game was great, and like kind of like to point back to what I said earlier, the wrestlers were smaller than the stars that you saw in the earlier N64 games.
Yeah.
And I could tell that like by the time No Mercy had came out, the video game developers had really mastered what they were doing.
Oh yeah, they were definitely in their bag by the time this one came out. I mean, all the match types you could ever want, so many unlockables. They had the first ever championship mode with branching off storylines, you know, very revolutionary. And there were even plans for a sequel called Backlash, but that was kind of cut off because everybody started developing games. So I want to say the GameCube, but they wanted to PlayStation that one.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was the last one, but it was easily the greatest. Now, we do have a couple video games that came out afterwards. They weren't really all that. So the first one I want to mention is ECW Hardcore Revolution, which was made by Acclaim, the same people who made the first two WWF games. Played the same way. And it was cool if you wanted to be Rob Van Dam for the first time on a video game, or the Dudley Boys. But
Sabu or something.
yeah.
Okay.
But it wasn't the easiest game ever, like the first two WWF games. Then, like you said, we had WCW Mayhem, which after they cut ties with AKI, WCW went to EA Games. And EA developed their last two games. Mayhem was wild. It was the first game to like really make backstage areas a thing. Like, you know, you could go back there and fight.
Let's wrap up this segment, because this is going to be a segment that we're going to tap into later on. You know, like on the next episode, we're going to talk about the best PlayStation games, and then it's just going to evolve into the SmackDown versus Raw series, and then it's going to go into the 2K series, and then you know we'll have a little tournament here. You know, I'll have the visual graphics here in a little bit. It's going to get a little controversial.
It's gonna get ugly.
It's going to get very controversial. You know what I'm saying? So, but.
We didn't come to a decision though.
Yeah,
so what are we thinking of as the best Nintendo 64 wrestling game?
Alex, you can go first.
I have to do. You said WCW versus what was it? Revenge.
WCW, Revenge.
Yeah, I think that one. I think that
that's
one. But I
respect.
think that may be the only one I played, if I remember correctly. Because I don't know, the carts back then, there really wasn't much graphics they could put. Like, I remember buying, PlayStation 2 games and stuff, and there was so much work put into the art.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To get people to buy the game, you know what I mean? So it's hard to remember which game it was, but I had to say that one probably.
Okay. That one, okay.
Plus, back then, I think, WCW was better.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay. Well,
I'm not getting to something else, but you know what I'm saying, at the time. So
yeah, that's a good point. I'm not about to discredit you here, you know what I'm saying? But I'm a No Mercy guy. Like the sweet being able to do title matches whenever I wanted without having to go through a whole storyline. I thought that was amazing. You know what I'm saying? The only thing that I didn't like was the entrances. They ended early. Like they never walked all the way to the ring. That was the only thing that sucked about it. But I'm a No Mercy guy.
Okay, yeah. I gotta go with No Mercy as well. No Mercy probably revolutionized my experience playing video games because I'm a little bit older than you guys, so I kind of came from the trenches of wrestling video games. And so by the time we got to No Mercy, I could not believe just how amazing it was. Even from the ladder animation, the way Jeff Hardy fell down, like all of that. Wow. Game was just crazy. I could pull it up today and still probably whoop anybody on that game. So I gotta go with WWF No Mercy. That's my goal.
All right, y'all hear that? Richie calling you. So if any of y'all just so happen to be at Up Down and get near that Nintendo 64,
all smoke.
WF No Mercy tournament coming.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. The Cultural Influence episode 10, the catch up. And this wouldn't be cultural influence without going over the hottest stories in all of professional wrestling. And this story was a little different because we got a moderator / special guest enforcer, my man Alexander Taylor. So he's going to be in here, switching us in, getting us in and out of segments without going over the hottest stories in all of wrestling in the form of a hot tag. Let's do it. Let's get into it.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I like that. There's a lot of hot topics here, but I think this is one. Jade Cargill, did they say her name? Not too familiar with it. Is in WWE. She was formerly with AEW.
Okay.
And now she's with WWE, which is obviously one of the biggest stories right now. So I think everyone's kind of figuring out what's going to happen with her in WWE. I'm seeing Bianca Belair, WrestleMania. I'm seeing a lot of stuff. So what do you think right here with this? What is this going to lead to for her? How about that?
I mean, what is it going to lead to? I mean, obviously, the way that WWE announced it, like, the ESPN report and stuff like that, that should tell you right there that it's big money. Because anytime a wrestler gets signed and it's announced to that big of a deal, you would think that there's some big plans behind it. Because we saw it years ago with AJ Styles. We saw it years ago with Shinsuke Nakamura. And you know what I'm saying? So, like, there's the hype that coming into it. But I would be lying if there was no concern booking-wise. Because, Jade Cargill has been wrestling for a little bit, but you could tell that AEW has been protecting her and stuff like that. And with her being behind the machine known as WWE, there's going to be this expectation placed for her to already be great. Yeah. And so like because we're still seeing her grow on screen, we're still seeing her grow, and so I feel like when them growing pains start to show. The wrestling world, we can be a little controversial.
Yeah.
A little harsh.
Yeah, a little harsh.
Well, do you think the Performance Center can help her with that? When you have, Shawn Michaels and those type of wrestlers on staff, veterans that can help develop you?
Yeah, I mean, like, as we've seen in the past, like, the Performance Center is state of the art. You see Logan Paul. You've seen what Shawn Michaels has been able to do with Logan Paul. And I mean, like, Bad Bunny, you know what I'm saying? So it's state of the art. I'm not really, like, worried about what they can do. It's just a matter of continuing to watch her, like being able to still watch her develop and stuff like that. Because I think AEW booked around her inconsistencies, you know what I'm saying? And I think WWE got to figure out how to do that because, AEW, I don't think WWE wants to isn't a fan of doing things the way that other people have done it. Because we've seen it with wrestlers who come into WWE where they're like, we get what you've done in the past, but we're not going to do it on my programming. Now, Vince McMahon, there's a new head honcho in charge, as she announced, you know what I'm saying, with this new TKO signing and merger. So I don't know about that. But, Performance Center, I'm not really worried about the Performance Center because they're going to do what needs to be done. But it's just the patience aspect,
I'm beyond being surprised that she even left AEW. I'm just really surprised at the way that they're going about it, because AEW did a good job of treating her like a big deal. She was always at the forefront of media presentations. Whenever they had something to present to the outside world, Jade was always there. Yeah. And Jade has a lot of crossover appeal that I feel WWE is going to capitalize upon in ways that AEW just wasn't able to. Not that they didn't, that they couldn't, that they just... not that they didn't try, they just couldn't. They don't have the bigger reach that WWE has. Yeah. But at the same time, I was really not confused, but surprised that she left because, she was saying like, hey, I want to work for Tony. This is where I want to be at. But she know where the big dogs play at. You know what I'm saying? She know what it's really like. And I'm a firm believer that if Jay would have just went to WWE 2 years ago and just did her time in the PC, she would have been way ahead. But, I mean, she did the smart thing. She went somewhere else, built her stock up, and now she's going straight to the main roster. And now everybody's talking about it because it's big news. And I'm not too worried about her not being the greatest wrestler because there are a lot of women on the WWE roster that aren't the greatest wrestlers. So they can work around.
Insert watching Nia Jax return.
Listen, man.
I love Nia. I love
They tried to make Dana Brooke a thing for a really long time.
They did.
It just did not click, you know. And no disrespect to Dana Brooke, but it's just, you know, they're going to try. If they see something in you, they're going to push you forward. And I think we've seen enough potential in Jade to know that she's going to take this thing and run with it to the next level. So I'm really excited to see her in WWE.
So we're talking about older talent going to AEW, and that's CM Punk. He leaves AEW, and now it's being speculated he's going to go back to WWE. But I think, as you guys know, his relationship with Triple H has been the main topic of could he go back. So what do you guys think? Do you think he's going to end up back at WWE?
Bitch, you go first, man.
All right, so the one thing they always say in wrestling is never say never. And I'm not going to say never, but I'm firmly believing it's highly unlikely. A lot of people in WWE just don't really like CM Punk from what I understand. Did you all see that interview with Seth Rollins where they asked him about it and he was like, no, bye. Like he was in character, but he was not playing. You know, like
That was a shoot interview.
Yeah. He was giving it up. You know, but also I also believe WWE knows when there's money to be made. And they also have their fourth biggest show of the year, Survivor Series in Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I would pull the trigger.
Go where the money goes, man. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel about the whole situation. And you know, I think we will see CM Punk in WWE, but I think, like, you know, one thing's for sure is we will see him in for a Hall of Fame induction. Now, for a run, that's going to be some other question. Now, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he go to Raw backstage and met with some people and kind of clean up some stuff while he was under contract with AEW?
Yeah,
he did.
From what I know, It was on that weird period where people didn't know if he was being fired, he was leaving, with him and Tony Khan beefing. Yeah, it was around that time. Yeah.
So, like, I don't. What's the situation on that? What you guys think?
From what I understand, he just went there to kind of mend some bridges. He wanted to talk to Triple H, talk to a few of the talents. I heard he squashed his beef with The Miz.
Okay.
And then I believe it was Vince McMahon that kind of put in the word to, like, hey, he needs to go.
Yeah.
Because at the time, he was an AEW contracted talent. And so, you know, that might open up the door for legalities and things like that. I don't believe it was, you know, forget that guy, get him out of my building. It was just like, hey, yo, we don't want no smoke because Tony's suing. So,
okay.
So they had to get him out the way. But I think it was a step in the right direction. I think it was him showing that bridge is rebuildable. It wasn't completely burnt, you know. So I don't know. I'd like to see it, but I still have a hard time seeing it. You know what I'm saying?
If we can see Bret Hart do a return to WWE and stuff like that.
Let's never say never.
Never say never at this point, man. And I mean, like, it's a whole new, you know, business under this whole umbrella and stuff like that. Like TKO, I don't really know the logistics of it all and stuff like that. But I mean, like, TKO, they definitely, I think that's a way to make big waves and stuff. And WWE has proven that they can handle the CM Punk dude. Because, like, I'm going to be honest, all of these issues with CM Punk backstage in AEW, I never heard that in WWE. You never heard of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, when Undertaker checked him and stuff like that, if nobody sweated it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and then this ain't even just me just saying that, because there's been numerous reports of AEW locker room just being very open. There's no real leaders back there. You know what I'm saying? It's very, like, you know, so I think WWE can handle it, but it's just a matter on if they want to handle it. And being able to understand, like, what comes with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I feel like we kind of overlooked it. We just glanced over because by this point it's old news. But CM Punk legit got fired.
That's true.
Like, I did not see that coming. I did not see AEW nor Tony Khan firing CM Punk. That was just crazy to me. Especially after their biggest show of the year, which was Wembley. You know, and that's a whole nother story in itself. We could add 5 more minutes on the hot tag just talking about everything that went into Wembley, the fights, him yoking up Jungle Boy. You know what I'm saying? It was an all smoke tour for CM Punk over there. And I don't blame the guy. If you're not gonna take no crap, you're not gonna take no crap. And I also don't blame Tony. You do what you got to do. But the fact that he really fired him blew my mind. But I will say this: WWE merged with TKO.
Yeah.
CM Punk is technically a employee of TKO. He is a commentator for one of their subsidiaries of UFC.
Oh my gosh. Edge.
So I mean, listen,
Don't do that. Don't start
if
that.
somebody on the TKO board wants it to happen, it could happen.
So, what's your thoughts on that? Do you guys think it's kind of just should be over, wrap it up with Edge, or get a little run at AEW? Or what do you think?
I think as we've seen with Edge's last run in WWE, he's really just at this point where he's doing all the side quests. You know what I'm saying? Like, we saw him come back. We saw him got to work with his wife for the first time. You know what I'm saying? Like, Edge didn't, that's a side quest at this point. You know, being able to do a program with your wife and then being able to start your own faction and stuff like that with the Judgment Day. We seen Edge put over talent and stuff like that. So, I mean, like, Edge, I think that's a great thing for Edge to be at this point in his career where he's like almost 50 and he's just doing all the side quests. We say that, I mean, you hear that about Snoop Dogg. You know what I'm saying? Snoop Dogg's done it all. So let me just go ahead and go to Mexico and do a collab with Bad Bunny. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like Edge might see it that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got all my side quests done over. You know what? Let me go join my man Christian Cage down there in AEW. Because, I mean, when's the last time we saw them tag?
It's been a while.
It's been a while. I'm gonna say.
And you know what I'm saying? That's very exciting to get in. And you know, all I'm gonna say is Tony Khan, if you got the Hardys and you got Edge and Christian, and I mean the Dudleys ain't far.
Hey, they're doing one last run in Impact.
I'm just saying, Tony Khan, but what you gonna do?
I don't know if I want to see that, but
That's true. That's true.
Nostalgia wins, man.
yeah,
I mean,
you're right.
So that leads back to my point. Are we just watching nostalgia wrestling at AEW at this point?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You know? And also, let me ask you guys a question. Is CM Punk returning to WWE a bigger story than Edge going to AEW?
100%, I would think.
It's way bigger. It's bigger. Yeah.
Okay. Just asking. Just want to know. Because I just want to see where you guys gauge them on your starometers. Is where CM Punk at in comparison to Edge?
It's as far as star meters, I think the bigger story would okay, I don't want to just make it seem like it's just a landslide here because like CM Punk coming back to WWE would be great and stuff like that. But let's not just make it seem like Edge appearing on Dynamite, closing out a Dynamite is going to blow the internet off its head too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then also, had we have not seen CM Punk wrestle in like wrestle period, and if it like when he last time we saw CM Punk on WWE programming was on wrestling all together in 2014, if he would have came back to WWE now and stuff like that, definitely. But we've seen Punk in action and stuff like that, so it's not his last. It wasn't his last hoorah on the wrestling scene altogether.
Yeah.
So yeah, like
I don't know, man.
Punk might be the bigger story just because you know the controversy that comes with it. Edge isn't a controversial guy.
He's not. And I feel like Edge is somebody that really loves the business and wants to give back. So that's another reason why I can really see him making this leap, because this could be one of his last chances to really make somebody. You know, he can go over there, have great matches with Ethan Page, go over there, have matches with Darby, go over there, have a great feud with MJF. Like
Danielson, bro. We've never seen Daniel Bryan versus Edge.
That's crazy. That's crazy. It's very possible. But I don't know, man. I just feel like the excitement is going to wear off after a couple of weeks. I feel like AEW's kind of plateaued, and I don't feel like there's anybody that can show up on AEW television, barring like The Rock, John Cena, Stone Cold, that can move them to that next level. They're kind of at this TNA level, where like TNA had everybody signed there at one point. You know, they had Mick Foley, they had RVD, they had Jeff Hardy, they had Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Hulk Hogan, and they still weren't even doing 1 million viewers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like AEW's kind of at that point where it's like nobody, barring a really huge superstar, is going to move the needle for them. But it'll be some damn good wrestling.
That is true. I'll tell you, it would be some good wrestling too. Would be The Rock versus Roman Reigns.
Let's wrap this Segway King. Let's get
Segway King. Yeah.
Moderator.
Let's get it.
I'm trying to do what I can here. So as you guys, The Rock showed up for the Colorado game, and he was on I think it was ESPN with Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
And he had mentioned that was supposed to be locked in. There was a handshake agreement, but obviously they didn't wrestle. So where are you guys at on this? At this point, are we tired of it? I mean, it's still Rock and Roman Reigns, don't get me wrong, but it's been speculating for a while now. So do you guys still want to see it at this point, or is this something that, you know, you're kind of like, I don't really care anymore?
I think we talked about this before, but not like with it getting. We was talking about it when it was like when it was steaming. You know what I'm saying? But now that this whole so much things have happened since we last talked about it, Richie. But man, you know, like I'm excited about it, and you know, Rock isn't getting any younger, but you know, them Instagram videos, they very inspirational, by the way. You know what I'm saying? But Rock looked like he in pretty good shape. You know what I'm saying? And my whole deal is it doesn't need to be for the title. I've said this before and I'll say it again. We do not need the title match for it because then it makes it super predictable. And let's just sit there and say, all right, Rock gets it. But yo, Hollywood literally just been on shutdown these last couple of months. And people are now like, yo, Rock is finna be busy these next couple of months and stuff like that. So I'm not about to have him lose the title. I'm not gonna have Rock get the title and be, you know what I'm saying, and be a part-time champion or barely be on programming because we know Rock's schedule is gonna pick up like crazy.
Can they do a WrestleMania match without the champion though?
It can be, but it's just a matter of how do you present it, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The writing would have to be
it would have to be
pristine.
believable.
How do we get there? Where do we take the title off of him? You know,
Yes.
Because at this point, it's become a punchline. But we have to finish the story with Cody.
Yeah,
You know?
We're not involved in that.
Poor Cody.
Now it's obvious that that Roman and Rock was the original plans, and then Hollywood happened, the merger happened, things happened, but Cody is still super over at this point. Everybody still wants to see Cody become this world champion, and I feel like if Cody were to lose that to The Rock, it might create a backlash for The Rock, But I don't see The Rock being the champion as a bad thing because Roman's barely around as it is. Like if Roman's on a part-time schedule, how come Rock can't be on a half-time schedule?
Yeah, valid.
I don't know, but I'm with you. I'm with you. If I could have the perfect scenario, it would be Cody somehow wins the title, and then we get Rock and Roman later on without the title because it doesn't need it. Because where we're at in wrestling, Cody not winning that championship would be more detrimental than The Rock not winning it.
Oh, yeah, true. Okay.
I think, like you said, it's partly because the writer's strike has ended, but the writer's strike is mainly why John Cena and The Rock have been more prevalent on TV. So anyways, WWE released a ton of talent. Obviously, with this merger, they want to clean up the books, make their financials look good and stuff like that. I think one of the biggest ones was Dolph Ziggler, of course. Him being released, I don't think people expected that. And some other notable lower card talent, I think, was released as well. So what was some of your reaction seeing those releases?
Shocked. Well, okay, not shocked because we all knew it was coming. But I did not see Mustafa Ali, nor did I see Dolph Ziggler getting released. I consider Dolph Ziggler a lifer at this point. He's been there since 2004. Mm-hmm. Even longer if you consider developmental. Dolph Ziggler's a guy that completely did his job to the best of his ability every single night. He went out there, gave you everything he had, from promos to putting guys over when even you thought he should have been going over. Mm-hmm. And it's just. I'm not gonna say it's sad because Dolph Ziggler's a millionaire, and I'm not gonna cry for no millionaire. It's kind of a it's kind of a sad thing. Like, dang, we don't even get a farewell or a retirement or just peace.
Yeah, next time we'll see him is definitely in the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
No, next time we're gonna see him is in AEW.
I was about to say.
Yeah, nah, bro.
I was about to say the same. I could see him going to AEW or something.
Yeah. If I'm Tony Khan, I'm signing Dolph Ziggler. Like, come on, dog.
I think
no brainer.
I think the biggest shock for me was Riddle.
Yeah.
Riddle wasn't even like Riddle was on TV like the week before, you know what I'm saying?
So was Ali.
Very popular too.
Yeah, very popular and stuff, man. But that just goes to what we was talking about earlier with the Punk drama. From what I'm hearing, he was very problematic backstage. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how true the rumor is about him slapping Gunther, but
that was cap.
That was cap.
But definitely the airport stuff that he got in trouble with.
Then that real feud he had, that real beef he had with Seth Rollins and stuff like that. Like Riddle has been a problem backstage and stuff like that. And WWE don't play that shit.
Yeah, they don't like problems.
And he also, from what I understand, had substance abuse issues.
Exactly. He did, because he was gone for a period.
Yeah. I was listening to a couple noted wrestling journalists, and they were saying that they don't really believe he's going to get a job in a big promotion until he gets himself clean. Because you'd be silly to think a guy like Riddle could not contribute to AEW. But if I'm Tony Khan, I don't know if I'm going to sign him right away with everything he got going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost a couple people, man. Dana Brooke was out of there. I mentioned her earlier, but who else?
It was notable. I mean, it was at least 10 plus people, maybe. It was notable people.
Yeah.
And like I said, you follow journalists, I do too, and it was just after another. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's hard to keep up with some of these people.
Yeah. It was Emma. We lost Emma.
Emma was a bad one, man. For sure.
Riddick Moss. We lost Riddick Moss. But the Emma one that made me really sad was that she was sharing the Elimination Chamber poster in Australia and being like, "This will be a dream come true," and immediately was released after that.
I think she quote tweeted in like "Nevermind" or something.
Yeah,
I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she did.
Heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. But once I saw she was gone, I was like, all right, Riddick is probably out of there as well. So obviously that happened, and then we saw Top Dollar
Top kind of shocked me, but not all of Hit Row. But I've heard
Yeah.
Top not being very popular backstage. I don't know how truthful that is.
I don't know if he's not popular, but I bet you Top Dollar was being paid a lot, and I bet you Top Dollar was just kind of a cutting measure. For a guy that's not on every single week and getting beat when you see him, if you're paying him, say maybe I don't know over $500,000. I don't know how much you're paying. I'm not gonna act like I know, but I believe Top Dollar was getting paid pretty well, as was Dolph Ziggler. We know for a fact. Dolph Ziggler
yeah,
is
of course.
great. So,
And I mean, as you guys know, it's not only just wrestlers. Obviously, people behind the scenes too. Marketing department, random stuff that goes on sales. They'll get rid of all those people too. So just cleaning up the books, making them look better.
Because whenever you're merging two big companies, you're gonna have two people that do the same job, and you don't hear that. So the first people to go were definitely the office people, and I was kind of hoping that would be it, but
True. Dang, man. But one thing I do want to point out with all these releases and stuff, because I think we all don't look at it for what it really is, because this isn't a discredit to the talent and to the wrestlers and to the performers.
Not at all.
Man. Because it's really like, one of the things that wrestling always get compared to is actors. You know what I'm saying? And whenever a character gets written off of television and stuff like that, I don't think we look at them bad and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And so when we say these guys are being released and stuff, it's not a negative and it's not a discredit to them. And I think wrestling journalists are just what people of our, what we do and stuff like that should really, I think we should continue to emphasize. That's very underrated, because some wrestlers, I'm not saying all of us do that and stuff like that, but there is a lot of sick wrestling fans who be like, oh man, I've been waiting on such and such to get fired.
Oh boy, the weirdos were out in droves that day. Twitter was a cesspool. It was just like, oh, I'm so glad you're going, Flop Dollar.
Yeah, like, come on, man. Like,
Dana Brooks should have been fired. And it's like, yo, you a sick person if you sit around waiting on people to lose their jobs.
Yeah,
and then as soon as it happens, you're like, celebrating.
There's no discredit to the performers whatsoever, because like think about all these wrestling promotions that aren't AEW or WWE that would love to have a Top Dollar
Exactly.
card.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Shawnee wrestling promotion down there in Oklahoma. Shout out to Malik Mayfield. You know what I'm saying? A quick plug right there.
Yeah.
It's just corporate America. That's how it goes.
That's just what it is.
It's just what it is.
That's why it's good that places like AEW, Impact, MLW, all these places exist. So.
Exactly.
Yep. Cool.
Well, guys, that's it for Hot Tags. Let's go ahead and end it out with our final game segment. Guys, that is it for this episode of Cultural Influence. Thank you for watching. Big thank yous to the UCO family and stuff like that. And you can watch this podcast on U Central Radio. Shout outs to Dr. Nelson, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere else you can really hear all the good podcasts and stuff like that. And shout outs to Alex for being our moderator. Shout outs to Khalil, our TD back there. You know what I'm saying? Cultural Influence got a good team and we're doing great things. So tune in next time. We're going to have a breakdown of all the video games coming up again, where we're going to talk about the best SmackDown games. So here comes the pain. SmackDown, shut your mouth. Can't wait for it. That's going to definitely be a good episode. And Alex, man, what was your experience? What's your take on this whole episode?
Good. I like it. It's fun. I think the video game topic is going to be great. You guys continue in that, but I liked it a lot. And I really like when you guys do the championship thing, though. That's real cool.
Awesome.
I like that.
I'll never forgive myself for getting that damn.
Makes you think.
Hogan, man, 2002, last WWF champion.
It just shows that WWE's writing can be,
yeah, true.
Could be questionable.
My bad, Rob.
Yeah. But make sure you follow me on Instagram at Still Iconic Ray. You know what I'm saying? Follow my man on Alexander Taylor. He also got an Instagram page for his podcast.
Yes, the Alexander Taylor Show. Instagram.
Yeah. Richie, drop your social.
Rich Guy 405 on Instagram. Richie 2 Liddy on TikTok, Facebook. I'm everywhere, man. Check your boy out.
All right, cool, awesome. Until next time, I'm Ray.
I'm Richie.
Out.